guys? Welcome to week 14. Next week starts the the fantasy playoffs. I hope you guys are doing well so far. If you need a win this week, let's get that win. If you're already in, hang out. If you're already eliminated, it's okay. We got a lot of good off-season stuff coming up. We got a lot of quarterbacks who might be traded, a lot of free agency stuff, including guys like Davonte Adams. So it's going to be a great off-season, and we still have the NFL playoffs as well. I just want to take a second and say, you may not make the fantasy championship every year. You may not make the fantasy playoffs every year. There's a lot of teams I had this year that I thought were going to be a lot better than they were. Ended up disappointing me. There's one league where I literally lead the entire league in points for, and I'm not going to make the playoffs. So this game is out of your control, and we're all just, as someone who gets severely, I don't want to say depressed, because depression is, a strong word on its own. It's kind of like a diagnosis, but I get really emotional around fantasy football. I get really into it. When my team loses, I'm in a bad mood. When a player doesn't do what I want him to, I get angry, and that's not the kind of way you want to live your life. So if you're really, really into fantasy football, which I know a lot of you are, let's enjoy this week. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Put your best players in, and that's all you can do. You can't control things that are out of your control. Okay? So let's enjoy it. Let's get into some of these games here. I got my my little Yoda mug here. I don't know if this is just regular Yoda or Grogu or whatever, but I'm excited for Boba Fett starting at the end of the month. So that's why we got this here. It's kind of weird. Okay. That's not important. What's important is tonight's game. Tonight being Thursday. I tried to hold out as long as I could. Just wanted some clarity on the Dalvin Cook news. But as of right now, it seems like he's trending towards playing. I'm going to be cautious. But if he's playing, then you're probably going to end up starting him. Unless you have another high-end option. Like, if you're deciding between Austin Eckler and Dalvin Cook, play Austin Eckler. If you're deciding between Dalvin Cook and... I'm trying to think of another, top-tier guy, but they're all hurt. I don't even know. Top-tier running back. Joe Mixon, Alvin Kamara. I'm playing those guys over Dalvin Cook. Maybe not even Joe Mixon. He's sick. I don't know. It's crazy. But... you're more than likely playing Dalvin Cook. Pittsburgh run defense has been absolutely atrocious lately. Excuse you, phone. I think Justin Jefferson's in for a huge game tonight. No Adam Thielen. KJ Osborne led all Vikings wide receivers with 95% of the snaps. So KJ Osborne should be in flex consideration. Tyler Conklin also had 9 targets last week, which led the team. Or at least he was second to Justin Jefferson, one of those two. But yeah, Tyler Conklin should definitely be on your radar. I would consider him a desperate tight end play. Like a top 10, 15 play. And for Pittsburgh, I do like Kirk as a streamer. But for Pittsburgh, Big Ben, theoretically a good matchup for him. He threw the ball a lot last weekend. I don't think he's going to throw the ball as much here. But against Minnesota, it would make sense. That being said, I do like Najee Harris, who's coming off a game where he played 97% of the offensive snaps. I do like Deontay Johnson. I do like Chase Claypool. And I do like Pat Freeman. I like all these Pittsburgh receivers, pass catchers. Eric Ebron's still out. So Pat Freeman should continue to thrive. I think it's going to be a relatively close game. Sometimes these Thursday games get a little messy. So just be aware of that. But yeah, I like a lot of the options there. Let's move down to Houston hosting Seattle. We got some games down here. Buffalo, Tampa Bay. It's a high point total. And we top it off with the Monday night Arizona and LA Rams. That's going to be a great game if you like football, which I hope you guys do. Houston Texans hosting the Seattle Seahawks. We don't know if it's going to be Davis Mills. We don't know if it's going to be Tyrod Taylor. Honestly, it doesn't matter to me. I don't really like anyone on this team. Brandon Cooks is the only guy who we're hanging on to. He did lead the team in targets last week, so he could be back on the rise, but I'm going to lower my expectations for Brandon Cooks as they've been spreading the ball for some reason. So, yeah, it's a great matchup for Cooks. So, in that aspect, he still deserves a start. For Seattle, it looks like Russell Wilson started to get back on track last week. He's got another chance to do so against the Houston Texans, who have been lackluster, to say the least, on defense. They just released one of their young linebackers, Zach Cunningham. So, yeah, I mean, Seattle might be in for a good game here. Rashad Penny, surprisingly, had over 10 touches last week for the first time. He did okay with those touches. They ended up winning the game, so it'll be interesting to see the dynamic in this backfield. If Alex Collins is going to play, if they're going to release him, it's going to be Collins, Adrian Peterson, Rashad Penny, Travis Homer, DJ Dallas, all sharing the load. It's a mess. I'm just not touching this backfield. Wide receiver-wise, Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, both these guys are still starting. Metcalf got a little more involved last week. He tied Tyler Lockett the league in the game with targets, so I do like DK Metcalf going forward. Easy matchup for him. Gerald Everett still seeing a high number of targets, so he's definitely in consideration as well. Washington football team hosting the Dallas Cowboys. I don't know if you guys remember last year, but Antonio Gibson against Dallas last year shredded them. He had like 2 games with like over 100 yards, multiple touchdowns. I mean, those were like the Antonio Gibson games. That was like the trend whenever he meets Dallas. I guess he just blows up. This is their first meeting this year. It doesn't mean Antonio Gibson's going to blow up, but he's on a great roll. He led the team in targets last week. J.D. McKissick's still not practicing, so there's a chance he's out this week as well. So, yeah, I think Antonio Gibson's a fantastic start, regardless of how good Dallas' defense has actually been. Wide receiver-wise, tough matchup for Terry McLaurin, who really just hasn't been able to get it done. Ricky Seals-Jones, I do like him a bit here. Logan Thomas is out for the season, so this could be a Ricky Seals-Jones type game. But again, we want to see how involved he is on a consistent basis. As for the Dallas side of things, I think what Washington ultimately wants to do is keep their defense off the field. So whether that's Antonio Gibson, short passes to Antonio Gibson, that's what they want their game plan to be. As for Dallas, running back wise, Zeke Elliott still not 100%. Tony Pollard also going to be called a game time decision for this 1 o'clock game. If either of these two guys are out, well, Zeke's going to play, and that's that. He's just not going to be 100%. If Tony Pollard doesn't play, then I would say Zeke is a low running back 1 or mid running back 1. He'll see a lot more passing work if Pollard isn't playing this game. So Zeke, as of right now, with Pollard potentially playing, is probably a low, like a mid running back 2, mid to low running back 2. And if Pollard's out, he's going to be mid to low running back 1. Wide receiver-wise, Amari Cooper now has no limitations going forward. This could be a huge blow-up game against Washington. CeeDee Lamb also, as you know, has been killing it recently. So I love Amari Cooper this week. CeeDee Lamb's going to keep doing his thing. I'm not as bullish on Michael Gallup, and I think it's going to hurt Dalton Schultz a little bit too. Next, we got Cleveland Browns hosting the Baltimore Ravens. Last time these two teams met, it wasn't good for Lamar. He threw like 4 interceptions. It was on Sunday night. And it's funny, my buddy of mine, Faraz at Upper Hand Fantasy, he made a point that to this moment, the Cleveland Browns have now been preparing to play the Baltimore Ravens for 3 whole weeks. Right? Because think about this. Week 12, Cleveland played Baltimore. They prepared that whole week. Week 13, the Cleveland Browns had a bye week. Week 14, now they're playing the Ravens again. So, they've had 3 whole weeks to prepare for Baltimore, as opposed to Baltimore, who's been battling bad quarterback play, among other things, these last couple weeks. So, it's gonna be very interesting. But Cleveland also does have some COVID issues running through their camp. Anthony Walker, linebacker, has been ruled out. Their punter has been, maybe not ruled out, but at least on the COVID list. So, yeah, we'll have to see who's cleared and who's not. But getting into the players here for Cleveland, I mean, we can just literally look back at what they did right before, right? I mean, if you look at Nick Chubb, when he was able to do against Baltimore and how high up they got on Baltimore in that game, let's see. So Nick Chubb, the last time he played Baltimore, he only had 8 carries for 16 yards. He had 4 targets and 23 yards. Kareem Hunt also back in the lineup. D'Ernest Johnson also on the field. So it's a bit messy, but you're going to start Nick Chubb. Kareem Hunt, he's startable. I'm not overly excited for Kareem Hunt. I still want to see what this backfield looks like, especially if they're going to continue to get D'Ernest Johnson involved. And wide receiver-wise, Jarvis Landry, he's a weekly flex play. David Njoku, as of right now, is out. Harrison Bryant is dealing with, I believe he's coming off an injury. So Austin Hooper might actually be a decent, desperate play here. For Baltimore, Rashad Bateman, at this point, is kind of an after. He's just not getting involved at all. So I'm going to avoid Rashad Bateman. Devontae Freeman still playing his ass off. So Devontae Freeman's a firm weekly running back 2. Marquise Brown and Mark Andrews are really the only pass catchers I trust in Baltimore right now. Carolina Panthers versus the Atlanta Falcons. Cam Newton coming off a bye. He got benched for PJ Walker right before the bye. He is still their starter. They have confidence in him. They just fired Joe Brady, so we'll see how this offense changes. They are favored to win by 2.5 points. So I do like Cam Newton in this lineup. Atlanta just has a god-awful defense. Running back-wise, Christian McCaffrey's out, which means Chuba Hubbard is in. We don't know if this backfield is going to be completely belonging to Chuba Hubbard or if he's going to be sharing it with Amir Abdullah. So stay tuned for that. My assumption would be Chuba Hubbard's a mid to low running back too, but we have to see because Amir Abdullah has been more involved lately. Wide receiver-wise, DJ Moore, fantastic start, and that's really about all I trust. As for Atlanta, Mike Davis has been good these last couple weeks, surprisingly, but I'm still not trusting him in my starting lineup. It's Cordero Patterson all the way. Russell Gage, 100% all the way. And Kyle Pitts, I'm sitting. I'm over Kyle Pitts. It really kind of has to do with no Calvin Ridley. So defenses are just kind of keying in on Kyle Pitts and not letting him get open. They know he's a playmaker, even as a rookie. So it's just not helping him at all. He's the tight end 27 since week 7. So he's just not getting it done. I'm going to sit Kyle Pitts for hopefully another option on waivers. I'd sit him for Pat Freiermuth. Trying to think of other on the border guys that I would sit him for. I can't really think of too many. But yeah, I'm going to sit Kyle Pitts if possible. Dalvin Cook will play tonight with a shoulder harness. And thanks to this tweet from Adam Schefter, we can see that last time he played with a shoulder harness was in a January 2020 wildcard game where he had 31 touches for 130 yards and 2 touchdowns. And with the harness, the expectations are Cook maintains his regular workload. So Dalvin Cook is not messing around tonight. Dalvin Cook is coming to play. Yeah. So this should be fun. Where was I? Carolina, Atlanta. Yeah, that's all I really have to say about that. New York Jets versus New Orleans Saints. Michael Carter still out dealing with an injury. He's on the last week of his 3-week IR stint. Wide receiver-wise, you can't sit Elijah Moore. He has had an over 30% target share these last 2 weeks. Corey Davis now on season-ending injury. It's going to be Elijah Moore, basically wide receiver 1 season. I mean, he's been killing it for you. So congrats if you have Elijah Moore on your team, or if you drafted him, you're welcome. That's all I trust. That's all I trust. out of the Jets. Tevin Coleman, I guess, could be the guy there. He's been leading the team in snaps and carries and touches overall in terms of that running back room. So, yeah, if you need to start, desperate start, I would say Tevin Coleman. But the only Jet I really want to put in my lineup is Elijah Moore. As for the New Orleans Saints, Taysom Hill, Alvin Kamara is going to be back this week, officially. So, Alvin Kamara practice full. He will be back and play against the Jets. Mark Ingram, on the other hand, dealing with COVID, he will be out this game. So, this should be a Alvin Kamara huge game. I mean, against the Jets especially, the worst defense against running backs in the entire league. So, Alvin Kamara should have a pretty good game here, especially with Taysom Hill banged up. They may want to just lean on Kamara, especially now that he's back. They really missed him. They haven't really won without him in the lineup. Wide receiver-wise, Traquan Smith would be my pick here. But overall, I'm going to try to avoid these guys. Deontay Harris, who was there, he led the team in targets last week. He is now suspended for 3 games. Tight end-wise, Juwan Johnson's not getting it done. Adam Troutman's on IR. So it's becoming a bit of a mess. But overall, I would lean just trusting Kamara. And if you're really, really desperate, Traquan Smith. I'm desperate in a couple leagues, believe it or not. Kansas City Chiefs versus the Las Vegas Raiders. As for the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, you guys know the deal with that. Clyde Edwards and Darrell Williams. This split is almost 50-50. I believe Clyde Edwards played 51% of the snaps. Darrell Williams played like 49%. I'm still going to start Clyde Edwards each week, but it's just not looking good for his overall value. Wide receiver-wise, you're starting Tyreek Hill, you're starting Travis Kelce. They both had bad games. I don't know what's going on with this Kansas City team. Maybe teams have just figured them out. Maybe Mahomes is just having a Super Bowl slump, which happens from time to time. But, yeah, I mean, I'm still going to start these guys. Vegas, we know that Josh Jacobs last week, he had 85% of the offensive snaps, 9 targets. When the last time you saw Josh Jacobs get 9 targets? I mean, that's absurd. With Kenyon Drake out of the lineup, he is their complete workhorse. He is a low-end running back 1 right now. Hunter Renfrow, also really like him on a weekly basis. Darren Waller is confident that he'll be able to play this week. And if he doesn't, then it's going to be hard to trust someone like Foster Moreau, who let everybody down last week. Tennessee Titans versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. As for the Titans, coming off a bye week, Ryan Tannehill has a much easier matchup here against Jacksonville at home. He gets Julio Jones back. That running back room, they're kind of starting to figure out. Looks like Jeremy McNichols is going to be back for this one. So it's going to be split between Dontrell Hilliard, D'Onta Foreman, and Jeremy McNichols. We really haven't seen Jeremy McNichols in the mix at all with Derrick Henry out. So this is going to be really interesting to see. But I would, I'm going to be cautious here. I would lean towards Dontrell Hilliard based on the success he had and the fact that Foreman fumbled a bit. I think McNichols might have to come in on some of those third down situations, but we'll see. I think this is a great matchup for Foreman and Hilliard, but still leaning Hilliard a bit for me. Wide receiver-wise, Julio Jones, you can start him. He is going to be their wide receiver 1. A.J. Brown is still on IR for at least 1 more week, I believe, or 2 weeks. I don't even know, but A.J. Brown's going to still miss some more time, so Julio Jones is startable. Side note for Anthony Ferkser, who their coach called a special teamer. So that dream has died. As for Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence is pleading for James Robinson to just be on the field. He says he's one of their best weapons. Jacksonville just has a real issue with throwing to guys like Laviska Shenault and Marvin Jones. There's just a real issue with it. They'd rather throw to James O'Shaughnessy and Laquan Treadwell. So I am done trying to predict this Jacksonville offense. Just James Robinson, start him and hope that he can get the job done. Next up, we got the LA Chargers versus the New York Giants. We have some injuries in this game, some COVID issues in this game. For the Chargers, running back wise, Austin Eckler is limited this week, but he'll be fine to play. Wide receivers, this is where really most of the problems lie. Keenan Allen tested positive for COVID very early in the week, so he has not been completely ruled out just yet. He still does have a chance to play. I believe he has to test negative twice. Mike Williams was deemed a close contact on Monday, but Mike Williams is still testing negative, so there's a good chance Mike Williams will play as well. But nothing's certain. So the Chargers could be with Keenan Allen and with Mike Williams, or they could be without both of these guys. So time will tell. Time will tell. But right now, I'm going to keep Keenan Allen in. I'm going to keep Mike Williams in. I'm going to assume both these guys are going to be able to play. Okay. Tight end wise, it's still kind of a mix-up between Jared Cook and Donald Parham, so I'm not confident with either of these guys. For the Giants, Mike Glennon looks like he's going to be able to play this week, despite the injury that he's facing. Saquon Barkley should be good to go. Wide receiver-wise, Kadarius Toney got another injury in practice, so he's likely going to be missing this week. Sterling Shepard is looking to make his return, so Shepard should be back with Kenny Galladay, and Mike Glennon will be starting. So I think Sterling Shepard will be a solid start. I'm going to avoid Kenny Galladay regardless how much they say they want to get him the ball. And, that's really going to be that. Denver Broncos versus the Detroit Lions. For Denver, Melvin Gordon said he should be able to play this week. With Melvin Gordon back in the lineup, it does lower Javonte Williams' ceiling. But Javonte Williams should still be considered a weekly running back too, based on especially this matchup. And I want to see how much work he gets with Melvin Gordon coming back. I'm still going to flex him in all my leagues that I have him. So, yeah, I'll be very happy about that. Wide receiver-wise, it's really a mess. Outside of the running backs, the targets are just so evenly distributed between guys like Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, Noah Fant. It's almost hard to trust these guys. So I'm going to stay away from as many of these pass catchers as I can. As for Detroit, it looks like they want to take more shots downfield. They're just coming off their first win. Amon-Ra St. Brown, over 10 targets last week with DeAndre Swift out of the lineup. And speaking of that, Jamal Williams, I believe he played less than 50% of the snaps. He's sharing the load with a couple other guys. He is still leading the team in touches and snaps, but he's not dominating as we would hope. So I would lower my expectations on Jamal Williams, and I'm going to start looking towards these wide receivers a little bit. Start looking at Amon-Ra St. Brown, start looking at Josh Reynolds, both guys who have produced recently. And they said they want to take more shots downfield, and Josh Reynolds is exactly the guy to do that. So I'm going to keep an eye on that. Then again, I don't feel comfortable with either. TJ Hawkinson also, I believe he missed Thursday's practice with a hand injury. I don't know if this is a new thing or whatever, but something to keep in mind. Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Buffalo Bills. So Tampa Bay coming off another win. Leonard Fournette still playing an absurd amount of snaps, getting an absurd amount of touches. Wide receiver-wise, Antonio Brown suspended, so Chris Godwin and Mike Evans and Rob Gronkowski should all continue to eat. As for the Buffalo side, I don't want to do anything with these running backs. It seems like Devin Singletary is their 1A. Zach Moss is their red zone and third down guy. And then Matt Breida is also going to filter in on some of these plays. None of it is enough to be worth starting, so I'm avoiding all three of these guys. Wide receiver-wise, Stephon Diggs, definitely going to start Stephon Diggs. Emmanuel Sanders, I do like Emmanuel Sanders this week. I think he's going to have the optimal matchup on the outside, opposite of Stephon Diggs. So I think Sanders is going to get some good work here. Dawson Knox, I also really like this week as well. Not too much, not as much higher on Cole Beasley, who's been a little bit out of the loop. Cincinnati Bengals versus San Francisco 49ers. So Joe Mixon, as I mentioned, is dealing with an illness. He did not practice Thursday. He did have a little bit of a neck injury during last week's game as well, but last I saw, he should be fine from that. That's not really what's holding him back right now. It's more so the illness. He likely could still play. I don't know what kind of illness he has. I haven't seen too many updates on that, but if Joe Mixon is playing, I'm 100% starting him. If he's not, Samaje Perine is going to be next up, and Chris Evans saw no touches last week, so Samaje Perine would be somewhat of a workhorse. He would definitely see enough passing work to be a passable running back for the week. Wide receiver-wise, T. Higgins. I got to see the update on that, because last I saw, T. Higgins was not practicing Wednesday. Let's see, because I'm genuinely curious. I checked earlier. What is going on with my app here? So I checked earlier on T. Higgins, and I didn't see an update. But I just want to make sure I'm getting that right before I can confidently say he's not practicing again. T. Higgins... He returned to practice Thursday. So T. Higgins is going to play, it looks like. And as long as he's playing, he's going to be killing it. The last 2 weeks, T. Higgins has had 114 yards and a touchdown, 138 yards and a touchdown, 22 total targets in the last 2 weeks. That's 11 targets each week. T. Higgins is a must-start at this point. Jamar Chase still has that big play upside, but he really has fallen off. In that same span where T. Higgins has gone off, Jamar Chase has had 11 and 7 points. A total of 11 targets, which is what T. Higgins has had each of those weeks. So, Jamar Chase has fallen off a little bit. I don't know if it's a defense is figuring him out type deal or whatever, but my hope is that T. Higgins is going to establish himself so much on the outside that he'll start to get the safety help, or at least the safeties will be split in terms of like how they share their coverage, and then Jamar Chase will get back into the fold. That is my hope. We'll have to, we can only hope that happens, but I'm not too confident in that. Next up for San Francisco, running back wise, it looks like Elijah Mitchell did not practice Thursday. His status is seriously in doubt for this week. He's dealing with a concussion, which leaves running backs Jeff Wilson, who is also limited. Jeff Wilson is a limited participant in practice on Wednesday. And that also leaves Jermichael Hasty, who Jermichael Hasty is the only other running back that they really have on the roster who's healthy. So those guys would likely be splitting the work if Elijah Mitchell were to miss time. I believe Trey Sermon, is he on IR? Yeah, Trey Sermon's on IR. He has an ankle injury, so he's going to be out at least 3 weeks. Wide receiver-wise, Deebo Samuel did some work on the side, they're calling it, on Thursday. So Deebo Samuel practicing is a good sign that he'll be able to play this week. Brandon Ayuk kind of fell off a little bit, but when George Kittle's having a game like he had last week, how can you blame him? So Ayuk remains a flex play, and don't be surprised if Deebo plays and he outcarries Jeff Wilson and Jermichael Hasty. So don't be surprised. Aaron Rodgers versus the Chicago Bears. He owns them. As for the running backs, Aaron Jones is a couple weeks removed from his injury. He is still splitting the work with A.J. Dillon, so it'll be interesting to see what that split looks like here, but I am starting Aaron Jones. Wide receiver-wise, Davonte Adams, of course you're starting him. There's not really anybody else on the Green Bay that I'm over ecstatic to start. From the Chicago side, looks like Justin Fields is going to be back. Dave Montgomery returned to practice Thursday with a slew of injuries coming off one of his best games of the year. Allen Robinson also looks like he's going to be back for this game, but he might see some tough coverage against Jared Alexander, which means Darnell Mooney and Cole Kmet would be the ideal ways to move the ball. We'll see if that really comes to fruition. I don't know if I can really trust either of those guys right now. I would call Darnell Mooney a flex play. Last matchup here we got on Monday. It should be a good one. Arizona Cardinals at home hosting the Los Angeles Rams. Kyler looks like he's back at full strength. Running back wise, Chase Edmonds also looking like he's going to be back for this game, so that's great news. Maybe not so much for James Conner owners, there's a chance James Conner has earned the right to be the 1A in this backfield, and Chase could be the 1B as he was with Kenyon Drake last year, but we'll have to see. So James Conner I will call a low running back 2, and I think I'll do the same for Chase Edmonds. Wide receiver wise, DeAndre Hopkins should be good to go. I mean, he's practicing in full, so DeAndre Hopkins should be back to 100% this week. Like Christian Kirk and guys like that are... I'd say Christian Kirk is worth a desperate flex play as well. Los Angeles Rams, Darrell Henderson, he's back at practice, so he should be back in the starting role this week. Wide receiver-wise, Odell Beckham, he's getting that touchdown, so, I mean, he's gotten touchdowns the last couple weeks. He's putting up 15 points each of the last 2 weeks with the Rams that he's played. So Odell is going to continue to be that high wide receiver 3/flex play every single week. Van Jefferson also in a similar category. He's had a ton of targets. I do like Van Jefferson a lot. Not so much on Tyler Higbee this week. So Van Jefferson flex, Odell Beckham flex, and yeah, Tevin Coleman not practicing again Thursday. So it could be a Ty Johnson, Austin Walter game. Ooh, crazy. Just going to make adjustments. But yeah, so that's going to do it for this week, guys. I appreciate you taking the time to listen. Again, don't stress this week. Be happy. Look at my Yoda cup. And whatever happens, there's always next year. Okay? Alright, so appreciate you guys, and we'll see you next time for the playoff video. Peace.